Nintendo 64. Dead Challenge Duo Podcast, episode 64. How you doing, Alexander?
Doing pretty well. How are you?
We're finally 64 bits.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
That was a big deal back in the day.
Yeah. We should have had someone animate us in the polygons. Episode.
That would be pretty cool. I would actually love to see that. That would be something I would truly enjoy, because I like that that's kind of become in vogue now, like the retro style graphics. Even though we have like these great GPUs and processors that we couldn't dream of back in the 80s and 90s, there's still people doing pixelated art in video games. So how was I'm going to guess here, your week was fine, but how was your week, Andy?
Yeah, it was fine.
Yeah. I'm still going through it, man. I feel like I should keep everybody updated. So I'm still working the really bad job that I hate. I ended up calling in twice to go on job interviews for jobs that I really want. I realize how risky that is. I realize I might get fired for it. In fact, I might walk into work later tomorrow and get fired for attendance, because I've heard they're actually stricter than their super strict policy to begin with. But I don't even care anymore, dude. I almost walked out of there.
Mask off.
I almost walked out of there on Monday. I can't take it, dude. Nobody communicates. There's all this upper management, and by I say all this upper management, like it's about 12 people total who I supposedly answer to in one form or another, either directly or indirectly. None of them communicate with each other. I went on Monday and did 4 hours of work, had somebody come in and say, yeah, we already did that last night, so I don't know why they're having you do it again. So I basically spent 4 hours of my time doing something that was unnecessary. And of course, when this gets brought up, they find some reason to say that's not what we asked for or whatever. It's the worst place to work. It's the worst job I've ever had. It's the worst in 13 years. It's the least amount of money I've ever made. So,
hey, that pizza place.
No, you see, the pizza place was 17 years ago. That was a long time ago. Actually, it might have been more than that. I was very young. I want to say I might have been 16 when I got hired by Winter Garden Pizza Company and fired within the same 24-hour period.
Next time I'm in your neck of the woods, we got to go.
We should go. I wouldn't tell you the food is very good. It's not a very good place.
It's the experience of going to... I already forgot what you said.
Winter Garden Pizza Company. The location is the only reason that place is open. It has a killer location. Guy who runs it is kind of a POS. He's just not a good dude. And to give you an idea of how bad of a dude he is, he calls his wife... putting that in air quotes for people listening to the audio version, he calls his wife. Turns out they're not married. Here's why they're not married. He claims all the income under himself. He says that she makes no income even though she works there. So the reason for this is when they popped out all those kids, she did it on Medicaid. Because she said, I'm destitute, I don't have a job, I don't have anything going on. To me, that's just such a crappy thing to do. There's so many people that need Medicaid and can't get it, and yet this guy's abusing the system to get it. Anyway, that's my rant on people living off the system. That shouldn't be. The system's there for a reason, but it's not for that. So, Andy, moving on to the regular feature here. What have you been watching? What have you been playing this week?
Nothing. Watching The Last Detail, Taxi Driver, Seven Samurai, Shadow of a Doubt, 12 Angry Men, 5 Easy Pieces, Rope, That's it.
Yeah. Well, what have you been playing?
Nothing. It's the very first thing I said.
Oh, I thought you meant watching.
No, we can't just do this. I'm not. I'll let you know if I play something.
Oh, okay. My bad. So this week, I haven't been watching a lot. Been watching a little bit of The Office, and I watched a bunch of episodes of Cheaters when Ashley wasn't home. It's a guilty pleasure of mine. Always has been. Always will be. I love Cheaters. I like the Joey Greco version. I like the Clark Gable version. Rest in peace. I thought about auditioning because they're taking audition videos for the new host job. I was thinking about putting in an audition as the new host for Cheaters. Like, what if it actually worked out, right? Anyway, been watching that and got caught up on Family Guy, Bob's Burgers, a couple other animated shows, and Mom, another show on CBS that I really like. Watched some old episodes of Big Bang Theory. Almost purchased the whole set. It's like $169 for like the whole series. I'm thinking about buying that, but holding off. And then obviously NFL playoffs. You know, that's been an absolute joy to watch the NFL playoffs over the last 2 weeks. They've been great. As far as playing things, haven't had a whole lot of time, but did play some Madden. Didn't record any of it. Really should have, but didn't record any of it. And I qualified for Weekend League, so there might be some Weekend League streams coming this weekend, depending on how work goes. But there is also a new update, the 8.3 patch to World of Warcraft, that I'm really looking forward to playing. I haven't played it yet, but it's a whole new update. Kind of like the one that they did for, what was it called? Rise of Ishara. This one is a similar amount of content. There's all kinds of new stuff that they've added to the game. It's supposed to be the last really big update before the new expansion comes out, presumably August.
Pandas too.
Or September of next year. No, it's no new pandas. It's mecha gnomes that you can play with. Nah, you know, those are really popular characters, though.
I went and played Minecraft again because of the pandas.
That's pretty tight, man. You know, it's funny because I knew somebody that I ran across on World of Warcraft. And he was like, yeah, I heard this rumor that they might put pandas in the game. So I went on there and I reserved... he basically created a character to hold the name Po from Kung Fu Panda. And he ended up selling that name on eBay for a large, large sum of money. So there you go.
Fun
anyway,
fact.
Yeah.
Dantari Poe has thrown, received, and rushed for a touchdown before.
Really?
Yep.
That's pretty cool. Good for him. I know at one point he almost had his career ended due to injuries, so good for him. So moving on now to another topic that's always a favorite here on the show, and that's listener questions. We have none this week, so thanks for your listener questions. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Especially on these weeks where we really don't have many topics, but you know, couple ways you can send us.
The biggest topic of them all.
Well, there you go.
After this,
yeah, no
one will get upset for my response.
Hey, we'll get into that. So, couple ways. Just want to encourage you guys, if you want to leave any listener questions, you can always tweet us at Dead Channel Duo. You could also email us at alex@deadchannelduo.com and andy@deadchannelduo.com. And you can send us an email with your question, or, you know, you could just email us and just say hi, you know, like, hey, enjoying the podcast, or hey, hate the podcast, whatever you want. It's all good. We also have a phone number that you can call, and you can leave a voicemail if you want to leave a voicemail, and I'm looking that up right now. But I do want to say we appreciate listener questions, so please submit them. I know there's been some controversy around those in the past, but we will get to them as best we can. And I'm looking at it right now. Hold on. You can call us. Oh, no. we lost our Google Voice number. We're gonna have to get a new one.
Oh no, some people used it and called it.
I know.
I'm glad we put like 2 minutes on this for no reason.
Well, I'm trying to fill time, Andy, because we don't have many topics. So,
we have more topics than last week.
well, moving on to our next topic here. Andy has Oscar nominations on the notes here, and I got to be honest with you, I don't care about the Oscars. I just don't. It doesn't mean anything to me. But Andy, take it away.
I don't know. It just,
Oh, come on, dude.
things
Don't do
that
this.
should have been nominated
Okay,
didn't get nominated.
give us some dialogue. Give us some rhetoric here.
I'm starting it off. You
Okay.
can't just like the second I start talking, be like, oh my god, he's gonna shit on the Joker.
No, because you're like, because when you go, nah, I don't know. Usually means you're gonna be like, oh, it's fine.
No, I mean, there's a bunch of stuff that didn't get nominated, and that should have been nominated.
Okay.
Either like Greta Gerwig for Little Women should have been nominated.
Mm-hmm.
J-Lo for Hustler should have been nominated, but it wasn't. Basically, a bunch of women didn't get nominated, and that's a big controversy going on right now. And then also, Joker got nominated for a bunch of stuff he shouldn't have.
Can I just say that my big gripe, and I know I just said that I don't care about the Academy Awards or Oscars or whatever. Alita Battle Angel didn't get nominated for Best Visual Effects when I think that we can all, whether you liked Alita Battle Angel or you didn't, let's be honest, the effects, the visual effects in that movie were groundbreaking.
I mean, Disney was winning that.
Oh God, I'm so over it.
Disney has it locked. Visual effects is Endgame, Irishman, Lion King, 1917, and Rise of Skywalker.
1917 definitely deserves to be there. I mean, they filmed that whole thing in one cut.
It looks like it. It isn't one. It's like Rope. It's not like Birdman.
Okay, I'm gonna have to research that.
It looks like one shot, but it isn't like Rope. But it feels like one shot because there's editing tricks.
I don't know, man. I'm gonna have to do research on that because that's not what I read.
That's what I read, but
I want to be like every middle 50s white guy in the world and be like, look it up. If you don't believe me, look it up. I'm just kidding. But we'll have to come back to that.
okay,
Maybe
Eddie Bravo.
Well, that guy is such an idiot. He's funny.
How World War
funny,
I, epic
but he's
1917
entertaining.
was filmed to look like one continuous shot. That's a headline.
Okay, well, then I read an article that was obviously misinformed because I kept telling my wife, this is amazing because they did it all in one shot.
It seems like just one long continuous shot. However, if you look behind the scenes leading up to this, the camera crew had to chase after George by jeep, motorcycle, and even by foot. The actor jumped off a ledge onto a mat, which is blah, blah, blah. Yeah, they did tricks.
Well, okay, cool. Anyway, continue with the snubs, if you will.
Yeah, and then like everything A24 got snubbed. The Uncut Gems didn't get anything. Adam Sandler didn't get nominated for Best Actor. The Lighthouse should have got, like, it got cinematography, but it didn't get anything to do with acting, even though Willem Dafoe's performance is the best of the year, in my opinion. And they just went for all big stuff. And then, I don't know, but then on the other side, they nominated Parasite for a bunch of stuff, and I feel like Parasite should sweep everything, but it won't, because it's foreign. And they're not going to give it to it because it's foreign.
It's just kind of weird, man. Like, when you think about it, because, like, for the longest time, the rhetoric around the Oscars was that it was, like, this inside job type club where it's a lot of stuff that's not mainstream. It didn't have enough mainstream. It was too much nouveau riche and, like, pretentious
back and forth.
films. Yeah, and then like now it's gone like so far to the other side where I know Black Panther was nominated for an Oscar. I don't think it won, but I think it got nominated.
It won the popularity award.
Well, that annoys me. That award shouldn't even exist, and I just
It
think
doesn't exist anymore.
Well, good. Thank goodness for that. I think
It was
that
a one-time thing. They just gave it to it just to give it to it.
I just feel like we're pandering now. Somebody that's running this thing, the Academy or whatever the F you call it, somebody's pandering to all these people who want them to come down, like step down to this mainstream. And I'm not saying that that's wrong and that you should go so far in the other direction where it's a bunch of stuff that nobody sees. But I just feel like we could do better. We can do better. But in the end, I mean, this is why I just don't care about it. I think
It
great
matters,
art.
but
I think
it doesn't matter at the same time.
it does matter, I think, to a lot of the people who work really hard on these films. I think those are the people who get robbed. The ones who put their heart and soul into something, and it might be a dream of theirs to win an Academy Award, right? Or Oscar. Aren't they the same thing? I don't know. I'm probably
Oscars
wrong.
are the Academy Awards.
Okay, good. Then I'm not talking. Then we don't have to do, oops, I made a mistake. Here's a correction next week. But I just, to me, I kind of look at it like there's so many scientists out there who they want to win a Nobel. Like it's a goal of theirs. It's a lifelong dream. And, to kind of miss the cut because they put some garbage in there to pander to people. And I know I feel like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth because I said Joker was the best thing I saw in theaters this year. It's because I saw 3 movies in theaters this year. I watch most things on home release, so I think, I don't know. I feel like I say this every week. I'm so sick of I'm so sick of comic book movies and the dialogue around it. It's just it's one, it's become hackneyed. 2, it's become so unnecessarily divisive. And 3, the bias is so real with 80% of the people that talk about it. And I just don't want to be in any part of the Academy Awards. But then again, at the beginning of this, I said I don't care about them. So my opinion isn't worth.
I mean, if I say anything, people
crap.
get their titties twisted.
I mean, it's whatever. I'd rather be controversial than boring.
Yeah, Joker definitely didn't deserve a nomination for directing.
I mean, it was great. It was a great directing job. Probably doesn't deserve
Every
to be in
character
that.
is one-dimensional.
Fair enough. I don't know. I like Joker. I think that it's the closest you'll get to a comic book. It's really close to Watchmen, where like Watchmen gets really close to jumping out of that realm and becoming a great film on its own, without the comic book source material at all. So I think Joker's really close to that. But
We do got one of those. Punch Drunk Love. We covered it. DCD Film Club. Superhero movie. Superman movie.
oh yeah, that's true. Yeah,
It's Superman origin story.
dude, I love Punch Drunk Love. Like, if you haven't watched that movie yet, please do. It in my opinion, and this is saying a lot because Adam Sandler's had some great performances. Spanglish is another one.
Uncut Gems.
Is another one. But I really feel like Punch Drunk Love is just his best performance because it was the first time you saw that Adam Sandler could do more than slapstick comedy, could do more than funny voices and tired jokes. And, some comedians never make that leap. Look no further than Pauly Shore. So, and I love Pauly Shore. I think he's hilarious, but never made that leap. So, Punch Drunk Love, check it out. DC Film Club selection. DCD approved. So, Oscars, I'm not going to care anymore, but I didn't really care too much it didn't really care too much in the first place. Moving on to something that I do care about, E3. So Sony is skipping E3 again this year. And I have noticed, and maybe Andy, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. I've noticed that a lot of fans of video games in general, not necessarily fans of just the Sony platform, but I have seen some people that are fans of the PlayStation brand say that they feel that this is a big misstep, that Sony may be missing an opportunity to show up to E3, throw down a PlayStation 5 concept, or maybe even a proof of concept, right? And, really take the world by storm. Kind of like when they showed up and they said that their console was going to be cheaper than the Sega Saturn way back when.
Wouldn't it be easier to take the world by storm if you announced your PS5 whenever there's no other news and you were the front page of all media?
It's fair.
And you didn't have to spend all this money to go out to LA. You can just shoot with like your phone a little picture. PS5 now. It's out. Go get it.
It's fair. It's a fair a fair point.
That's what Nintendo been doing with the Nintendo Directs past couple of years, and they've been killing it with it.
Justifiably so, though. They do a really good job with those. They have very good treatment. See, here's the thing about Nintendo is, like, they make Nintendo Directs feel special. And they train their audience to feel like Nintendo Directs are a very special event. When they come along, multiple friends that I know that are varying levels of Nintendo fans, they go out of their way to watch it live.
Yeah, but
I usually don't watch it live. I usually watch it back the same day with my wife. Me and her will watch it together. But we always watch them.
It's 2020. Like, directs are now the big thing, or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, to play devil's advocate, I will say this. Microsoft has shown up at E3 the last couple of years and really given us something to be excited about as Xbox fans, right? I'm talking about myself as an Xbox fan and everybody else who is. So I think that there is a good merit to that approach. But even then, I do see that Microsoft is slowly moving away from that. When they announced Xbox Series X, they did it as part of a very lower level event, and it was
Game Awards.
It felt like its own thing. It felt like its own thing that was like a side of the Game Awards, and I kind of applaud. God, I can't believe I'm about to just sit here and praise Sony, but I applaud Sony for saying, you know what, we're good enough to where we don't have to spend those resources. We don't have to spend that money to go to E3, put on this big presentation, fly all these people out. Yeah, set up a booth, pay
demo
fees.
booth.
I'm sure they have to pay fees to be there at some point. It does cost something. And what I told one person on Twitter, like, I get that you're mad because you're going to E3, but the vast majority of gamers, and when I say vast majority, I'm talking about 99+%, never even sniff E3, never even walk through the gate at E3. If you want to sit there and say that it's more relevant to talk to this less than 1% of the gaming community at this conference than it is to do a direct event like you've been saying, where you're going to be front page news, all the attention is going to be on you, the world is yours to present your product. If you don't think there are marketing and like product design professionals at Sony who have gone over it time and time again and realized E3 isn't worth it, from an investment, from a return on investment standpoint, it's not worth it. So you on Twitter saying I'm at E3 and I'm disappointed that Sony isn't going to be there, that is a personal bias. And it is kind of a fallacious argument. Because when you argue from a personal bias, you're immediately throwing reason out the window. Meanwhile, these professionals at Sony have determined that it's not worth it for them. So I applaud them for taking the chance. And I applaud them for telling people at E3 we don't care. I know that sounds harsh, but it's not.
I mean,
it's not as if they're holding a Sony event and saying we're not going to talk about PlayStation at the Sony event. This is third-party event. They don't have.
I mean, EA did the same thing. I mean, EA they just made their own event, but they're like, yeah.
I would figure it's probably cheaper. And I think EA gets way more traction outside of E3.
They do it before E3, like I was saying, to where all eyes are on you, and not Xbox, Sony, Nintendo, Ubisoft, EA, all on the same day.
I'll be honest with you. I kind of like the approach, and if Xbox went this direction, I wouldn't be upset at all.
Hey, I mean,
I'd actually kind of understand it. I think what's going to happen is I think E3 is going to become a software showcase. I think that's the direction we're heading.
It's supposed to be an influencer thing now.
Well,
like how Keanu was there.
Yeah, and I mean
that's have like Ninja and stuff like that there.
But that's software based, really. I mean, it's not. It's just not like it used to be. E3 has kind of been an ever changing thing. There was a period of time where E3 was mostly fans. There was a period of time where it was mostly press. No. Now it's almost entirely press. One point exclusively and influencer. Press. Yeah, it's been this ever changing.
Only invited to it.
Yeah, it's this ever changing thing. So, if you're upset that Sony's not going to be there, don't worry. You'll get your PS5 news. It's going to happen.
To play devil's advocate.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad to see E3 die because it's like the NFL draft of gaming.
It is.
Where it's like, this weekend, you get all this hype news. It's like, it's a fun time. But also, at the same time, you're not losing information. It's just going to be spread out more.
I just hate, you hate to see mediums die like that. I've commonly bemoaned the loss of gaming publications. I used to enjoy reading gaming magazines. That, and like that medium has gone away. Magazine sales in the US are colossally down. I don't know anybody that reads magazines anymore outside of a doctor's office. The magazine companies that are still out there are struggling in a really big way to even keep the doors open. Everything shifted to websites, and even websites that were running like magazine style publication websites, they're slowly dying out. It's, you hate to see those mediums die because you've become attached to them. But at the same time, whether Sony unveils at E3 or they do a direct, to me it feels like the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think PS5 is going to be awesome, though. I can't wait to... I'm hoping... I just went on a job interview today, and it went over by half an hour. So I'm assuming it went well, because they kept wanting to talk more and more and more and more and more. But I got to tell you, man, like, I'm hoping I have my job situation figured out, because I really want to get a PlayStation 5. Hell yeah,
Day
dude.
one.
I want NAC 3 Day 1. I want Little Big Planet 18.
3D.
NAC 3D.
You get the old school 3D glasses, the blue and red.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I mean, I know I've been pretty rough on the PlayStation brand on this podcast, and I know I'm pretty rough on PlayStation guys. The PlayStation fanboys, if you will, because I think that their arguments are based illogically in most cases. But I really hope to buy a Sony PS5 day one if I can. But if I have to choose, I mean, I'm going Xbox. But
what's the game on the PS2 where you just like rolled around and you got bigger?
Katamari Damacy.
Yeah, Knack is the new Katamari.
No, Katamari's better than Knack.
No, okay, podcast over. We're done.
Okay, well, speaking of games that are not done, Cyberpunk 2077 delayed to September 17th. And that is a huge shot, I think, to that game. And its fans, if you will. It's kind of it's a bittersweet thing. I know we've talked about game delays in the past on this podcast, and I'll kind of reiterate my points. I think game delays aren't such a bad thing long term, because if it's not ready, You want it to be ready when it launches. You don't want a half-baked product at launch. WWE 2K20, I'm looking at you. So I can appreciate the delay, but inevitably it is a little bit disappointing to fans. So, Andy, how do you feel about this delay? Do you think it's going to hurt the game, help the game, not make a difference?
The only way it hurts it is it's been pushed to a bad release window versus it was by itself.
That is true. That is true. You know, a really good time to release a video game, speaking as from someone who worked at GameStop for a lot of years, if you can get your game out February or March, or even January.
It's not like Sekiro was last year.
It
was
goes
completely on an island by itself.
Yeah, it goes unopposed, and you get a lot of people who buy it, maybe because there isn't anything else on that new release shelf. It's really tough to live Fallout 76. Look no further than that as an example. It's really tough to live in that Q4 window.
But, I mean, to be fair, a big game released... This is coming out presumably 2 months for the new consoles.
Mm-hmm.
And GTA 5 also did that, and it was fine. So, I mean...
Yeah, I think... And by the way, I just realized September 17th would not have it in Q4. It'd have it at the very tail end of Q3, by the way. So, corrected myself there.
But also it'll work on the next Xbox, because apparently backwards compatibility is like the whole thing.
We shall see. I hope
apparently
it is.
The PS5 is supposed to work with PS1, 2, 3, and 4 games.
It could so easily be done. And it might be the last generation where we see that as a thing, because I don't think the next generation is going to have a disk drive. It's a totally different discussion for another day. But I think Cyberpunk 2077, much like Grand Theft Auto 4, will be just fine.
5.
I'm sorry, 5. Thank you for correcting me on that. Grand Theft Auto 5 was fine, and then they inevitably did the remaster that we all knew was coming for the current gen consoles, and then that sold like hotcakes. And I think 2077 could do the same thing, but what I always tell people is this: don't get caught up too much on the piece of hardware that something launches on, because sometimes those end-of-life cycle games are truly the best of a generation. Beyond Good and Evil, WWF No Mercy,
The Last of
Grand
Us.
Theft Auto 5, Last of Us. These are just 4 examples that just came to us off the top of our heads. Plus, you could always do a remaster later on. That seems to be the new wave. Everybody loves that. I'm not really a big fan, but a lot of people are. You know, if your game is good, it'll stand on its own, just like any other piece of art. Good art stands on its own. So, looking forward to it still. I will be someone buying this game day one, as I'm sure a lot of you will, and we'll see how it works out. Anyway, moving on to DCD Film Club, we are doing the Patreon selection this week, and it is a movie that I thought I had never heard of before, and then once I started watching it, I said, I've seen this before. I just haven't watched it all the way through. And that's 1972's Deliverance, starring John Voight, of my favorite movie of all time, Midnight Cowboy, Burt Reynolds, an absolute legend.
My favorite movie of all time, Cannonball Running. I mean,
with Sally Field. Yeah, directed by John Boorman, produced by John Boorman. He also wrote the screenplay for this one, too. So, Andy, how'd you feel about...
Picked by Dumb Sphinx.
Picked by Dumb Sphinx. Okay, there you go. Look at that. Sphinx getting a little FaceTime on the podcast. I think this is his first pick. So,
definitely not. He had the first ever fan pick.
Absence of Malice?
No. Moneyball.
That was Colby. Oh, that's right. He had Moneyball. I kept attributing that to Daniel because I know Daniel likes that movie. And it was Dumb Sphinx. That was an oops, I made a mistake. Here's a correction one week. So, well, there you go. So, Andy, how did you like Deliverance?
Well, let me tell you, it was directed by a Boar man, and sure did bore me, man.
Oh, God.
So I knew about this movie from one part, and I'd sit. Spoiler alert! This is your spoiler warning. Should be timestamps and description. Maybe, I don't know. There weren't any last week.
Oh, okay, give me a break.
So when Sphinx recommended this, I was just like, man, there's a hardcore rape scene in that movie. That's the only thing I knew about that movie beforehand.
It's it's really one of the calling cards of this movie, for better or for worse.
And that's the only thing I knew about it.
Yeah.
So the whole time, I was just waiting. Like, when this rape gonna happen? And then, I don't know. Other than the horrifying rape scene, this movie's pretty boring. I'm not saying the rape part was, like, fun to watch or anything. I'm
trying to tell us something here, Andy?
It was the only good scene in the movie.
I'm not trying to kink shame, by the way. Like, if that's what you're into, that's what you're into.
Sadly not. I'm into boys. What?
Squeal like a pig, boy.
Yeah, that part's like truly terrifying.
It definitely is.
It gets under your skin.
Yeah.
But other than that, like, I don't know. It was, I don't know. It wasn't shot bad. It's just, they didn't have the technology at the time to make this anything interesting. Like, the night scenes looked awful, where they were actually shot in daytime and they made it night.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
I'm assuming that's what they did, by the way, how awful it looked.
Well, I didn't notice that. I didn't think it looked that bad. Again, it's just another week where me and you are going to disagree. So what else, Andy?
No, it's just pretty boring.
All right. So
the music was repetitive.
See, you mentioned that, and that's one of the things that it was lauded for by viewers and critics alike. So,
they had, like, the scene where him and the kids playing music. Super cool. I guess filler time, and then that song plays out that the whole entire movie, the rest of the movie.
All right, so I'll jump in here. It's my first time seeing it all the way through. I've seen portions of this film. Never watched it all the way through. There's a lot of movies like that for me, mainly because when I was a kid, they would play films like this on TBS. My stepdad would watch them, and I'd kind of be in and out of the room, and I'd see little bits and pieces here and there. You know, my stepdad, Ben, rest in peace, man. Like, good dude. Even though we didn't see eye to eye all the time. He was really big into film. Like, Ben had seen more movies than any person I knew. In a way, in that way alone, Andy reminds me a lot of Ben. If Ben could, he'd watch a movie every single day. And Andy's like kind of the same way. Like, where I could talk to Andy and he'll be like, yeah, I watched like
every day.
Yeah, I know, but like I'll talk to you and
I've
you'll
only
be
seen
like
18 movies out of the 16 possible days this year.
Okay, so that's exactly like my stepdad. He's just a really big cinephile. He didn't like TV as much as he liked film. He really gravitated towards film. And you know, this was something that I remember him watching and liking for what it was. And I really liked this film. I ended up purchasing it on Vudu because I liked it so much. So, number one, it's got Jon Voight in it. You guys know I love Jon Voight. It's also got Burt Reynolds. And Burt Reynolds, maybe not the coolest guy personally, but he's a great actor who's done a lot of great work. And I feel like this is a great performance by Jon Voight compared to his other work, and it's also a great performance by Burt Reynolds compared to his other work. In fact, Burt Reynolds went on the record at one point in his career saying it was the best film he had ever done. And the blood, sweat, and tears that went into this film really deserves some credence. all the stunts were done by the actors themselves. They were not insured. They took some serious risks. If you look at what happened in this film, the scene where the I'm trying to think, I think Ronnie Cox, I think it's his character, they find him mangled from falling out of, presumably being shot.
Like this.
Yeah. Do you know Ronnie Cox actually popped his shoulder out of the socket for that scene? That was not a practical effect. Like, he really dislocated his shoulder and did that because I guess he was like one of those people that could pop his shoulder out. There's a lot of people who can do it, believe it or not. But he actually, it's painful, no matter if you could do it or not. But he popped his shoulder out of the socket and did that to make it look convincing. So the blood, sweat, and tears that went into this film, like I said, does deserve some credence. I think it was shot remarkably well. I'm going to disagree with Andy on that one. I think, especially for a film,
I didn't say it was bad.
Well,
I said
okay,
they didn't have the technology to capture what they were trying to capture.
For a film that's 48 years old, it looks really good. I guess that would be my defense of it. I think it really tells a good story about biting off more than you could chew, about the struggle between man and nature. I think that's an eternal struggle. Everybody looks at nature as this beautiful thing. It's not. It's horrifying. Nature is brutal. It will kill you. There are so many things in nature that will kill you without even thinking twice about it. Even when you go into space, I consider space to be nature. Go into space in the vacuum without a suit, you die within minutes. I mean, nature's brutal. There's beauty in it, but it's brutal at the same time. And I think this really does show that theme. It also does talk a lot about something that I think is very relevant and poignant, specifically in the United States, and that's the struggle between small towns that are built around the country, the mountains, the nature, right? These communities that exist despite the harshness of the elements versus big city people coming in and maybe thinking that they should change it or that they should do away with it in the name of advancement. I'm putting that in air quotes if you're listening to the audio version. I think it talks a lot about that. Should we destroy nature to advance society? I don't know. There were some really bad things that were going on in this community. Inbreeding, genetic deficiencies, people making other men squeal like a pig while they rape them. These are all arguments that you could use to say, let's destroy the community, let's destroy nature, and let's move on in the name of, again, advancement of the big city Atlanta. But is that truly the right decision? How much does it affect people? How does it affect their lives? What kind of bitterness does that harbor in those people? Those mountain men, the guys that they hired to drive the cars, they didn't want those dudes there. They're not their kind, right? So it just kind of, it's like a really good commentary on small towns being very, you have to be an insider and how they view outsiders. And I think it's something, like I said, that's very poignant and relevant to American culture, even today in some respects. So it's even relevant if you go over to, like, let's just say some portion of Africa where we have these tribes of people that have never really made contact with the outside world. You know, should we leave them alone? Should we introduce ourselves? Should we do away with them altogether in the name of, again, in air quotes, advancement? There's a moral dilemma here. I think this movie does a good job of telling that. I think in the end, I don't know that it's classified this way, but I kind of view this one as a horror movie. I really think it's a horror movie in a way. Everything that could possibly happen that's bad to these people happens. One of their friends dies. Burt Reynolds presumably loses his leg. One of them gets raped. And the other one basically has PTSD at the end of it. So I just think it evoked emotion in me. The rape scene was horrifying. The scene with Drew was pretty bad too. Burt Reynolds losing his leg eventually, that's pretty bad. It's good. It might not have intended to be a horror movie, but it was. I like the score. I know Andy says it was repetitive. I'll agree. At points, it probably did get a little too repetitive. But I did like it. Thought it was shot well. Thought the acting performances were great. The fact that they did all their own stunts is impressive. I didn't know that until after watching the movie, doing some research on it, that was the case. But I kind of suspected it because there's one scene where Burt Reynolds flips off of a canoe, and I went back and I rewatched it. I'm like, if that's a stunt double, they found like the most Burt Reynolds looking stunt double ever. Like, they didn't even do anything to mask his face like they usually would. So I think I just think it overall it's good. I see why it's considered to be an American classic, and I would encourage anybody out there who may not know anything about Deliverance to go out there and check it out once. It's good. It's good. Liked it a lot. So good pick by Dumb Sphinx. Way better than his last pick that I totally forgot to mention, The Lobster.
I'm pretty sure that also wasn't his last pick.
Okay, well, never mind then. I missed one in there somewhere.
I'm checking my facts. Nope, you may have been right.
I feel like that was the last one he picked. And like even he, like when I talked to him about it, like through chat or something, I think I was live streaming and I was like, yeah, man, I really just did not dig The Lobster. And he's like, yeah, I thought it was gonna be better than it was. Like at least he was fair about it.
I enjoyed it.
I just feel like we don't agree. We very rarely agree, and I think that's what makes it great.
Deliverance is on the 1001 movies to watch before you die.
I think I'd put it. I would say it would probably fit in the top 1,000 all time.
It's not really a top 1,000 list, but
okay. Well,
it's a top like 1,200. Because every year they release a new version every year. They take out 10, put 10 in. So is that like 1,200 now?
So I liked it. Andy didn't. No big deal. That's DCD Film Club.
Nominated for Best Picture.
Yeah, I could see that. So anyway, out of 10, I'm gonna give Deliverance a 7 out of 10, and I would tell you, it's worth seeing at least once.
5 out of 10. Okay movie.
Well, there you go. Another DCD Film Club.
It lost.
Yeah, of course it lost. So
it lost the Best Picture to The Godfather.
Pretty hard to top The Godfather. Even though The Godfather isn't my cup of tea, I realize the significance of it and how good it really is. Anyway. So that's Deliverance. Thank you again, Dumb Sphinx, and all the Patreon backers for your suggestions. I really like the Patreon pick every 3 weeks. I get to... It's like I have no idea what I'm walking into. It's like a fun surprise, and I don't think there's been a bad Patreon pick yet, but I could be wrong, and you'll probably go back and be like,
Absence of Malice.
That wasn't a Patreon pick.
It was? Oh, Patreon.
Yeah.
Man of Steel.
No, okay, get out of here, man. Okay, we're done. Andy's pick for next week that I predicted in the notes. I predicted it'll be Mariah Carey's classic Glitter from 2001. I have a feeling Andy's going to
think for like 3 seconds, you can probably guess.
I don't know.
The past 4 weeks, I've been saying it's a future DCD Film Club pick. The Lighthouse from 2019. My favorite movie from 2019.
All right. The Lighthouse from 2019. Where can we watch them?
You can rent it everywhere for X amount of money. Give me a second to Google.
Well,
you can rent it on Amazon, Vudu, and Google Play for $4.99. YouTube for $13, or you can use this digital code and get it for free. Whoever gets it. There you go.
I'm so tempted to snag it myself, but I'm not going to. Oh, shoot. It's on sale right now. I'm sorry. I probably peeked on the mic. It's on sale for $8.99 on Vudu if you want to own it. So you could rent it for...
I highly recommend.
Holy crap.
You own it.
It's $5.99 to rent it in HD on Vudu. It's $8.99 to own it in HD on Vudu. So I'm actually in the process of buying it right now on Vudu. I can't let that one go by for $8.99.
Yeah, it's a good movie. My favorite from last year.
Well,
we've been talking about it like every week.
Yeah, we'll check it out, man. I'm looking forward to it because a lot of people had that as their movie of the year. So looking forward to it. Great pick by Andy, and hope you enjoy it. And somebody go out there and snag that digital code. It'll probably be Dumb as Sphinx because I'll be honest with you. I know he watches he watches the podcast like every week on. Well, that's true. He gets it early, so he would have definitely first dibs on it.
If we upload the unlisted version.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'll make sure the Patreons get their first crack at it. Let's put it that way. So, anyway, moving on, before we wrap up here, of course, we want to talk about the NFL playoffs a little bit. Very interesting week last week. So, the Ravens lost to the Titans. People were having a absolute meltdown over that one. And I had some people that were very mad at me on Twitter for some of the things that I said about the Ravens fans just not wanting to admit that they had been beaten. They had been bested in every facet of the game by the Tennessee Titans. I realized the Titans didn't have to pass the ball, but why even pass it when Derrick Henry's just running all over everybody? Chiefs-Texans game was really good. I watched that one in a bar with Ashley. I couldn't believe the Texans blew that lead. Packers beat the Seahawks, and then the 49ers beat someone, I forget who, but... Minnesota, yeah. Minnesota just didn't... I think they're just outmatched.
They broke their will.
If you're going to beat the 49ers, I think you have to have a mobile quarterback.
Yeah.
I think that's the only thing that's going to beat the 49ers. And even then, it's like a maybe. Because
the Vikings had 9 drives and were 3 and outed 7 times.
So, going into this weekend, it's the AFC and NFC Championship weekend. Always a good one. Always fun to watch. It's going to be pretty interesting. So, first game that we're going to talk about is the Titans, the 6th seed, the last seed in the playoffs, going in to face the Chiefs in Arrowhead in 24-degree weather, according to the weather report here. Chiefs are favored by 7 in this one. Over-under is 53. So they're expecting a high-scoring affair. Andy, who do you have? Chiefs-Titans.
Well, I picked it when we did our predictions of the playoffs.
Okay.
My picks seem to be lining up.
Sticking with it.
Chiefs. Rematch. The rematch. Chiefs get their revenge. Game plan, stop Derrick Henry. That's obviously what they're going to focus on. It's just if you're going to do it or not.
After seeing the Titans dismantle the Ravens in every facet of the game last week, I just can't bet against what I think is the hottest team in football. I'm going Titans here. And that's saying a lot because the Chiefs played out of their minds in the last 3 quarters of their previous game. So we're split on that pick. This next pick, I don't think we're going to be split on. I think it's going to be a good game, but I don't think we're going to be split. Packers at 49ers. Andy, if you want to get on a flight to San Francisco, tickets start as low.
They're sold out.
Oh, no. I'm seeing tickets online right now through third-party providers as low as $302, presumably to sit in the nosebleeds. Yeah. San Francisco favored by 7.5 points, as they should be. Over under 46. I think this will be a little bit of a lower scoring affair, just because it's...
No, it'll be high scoring.
Really?
It's Kyle Shanahan against Patton. They head coach in there. Patton was the head coach in Cleveland. Kyle Shanahan was the OC. Every time Kyle Shanahan faces Patton, the 49ers average score is 33 points.
Yeah, I just don't
They
see
did it with C.J. Beathard and they did it with Jimmy Garoppolo.
I just don't see the Packers throwing up a bunch of points, though. Could be wrong, though. Probably a spoiler.
49ers blew them out 37-8 earlier in the year. Destroyed them earlier in the year.
And while I'm hopeful for a better game, and while I think it's good for football to have Green Bay, San Francisco in NFC Championship, and ultimately I think who wins this game will probably win the Super Bowl. I'm going 49ers here. I know it's a boring pick, but I just think the 49ers are playing the best defensive football in the NFL, period, right now. Their offense is still kind
of... a weak spot.
What's that?
Just name a weak spot in the 49ers.
Jimmy Garoppolo sometimes doesn't make the best decision and will sometimes throw a stupid interception that he doesn't have to. That's about the biggest weak spot I can give you.
Yeah,
that's
but
not much.
After that, have you seen what he does drives after interceptions?
Yep.
He's fantastic after interceptions.
No, you're right. I mean, I think he's playing very good football. I think that while that has become a little bit of a talking point with Jimmy Garoppolo lately, like, oh, maybe his decision making isn't very good. If you look at the whole body of work, I think he's done very well for himself this year and last year and the year before. Yep. So I think the 49ers are really the best team in football. I think they win this game. It's going to be a good one. It's going to be a good one.
They have the second best odds to win it all next year in Vegas.
Who has the best?
Chiefs, probably. I don't know. I didn't look it up. I just saw it on Twitter.
Well, there you go. So that's our picks for the championship round of the NFL playoffs.
I didn't pick mine. I didn't say who I think would win.
Are you not picking the 49ers?
I'm memeing.
Oh, okay.
Endgame's the greatest movie ever.
Oh, geez. Let's stop there. All right. So with Andy just being completely fallacious intentionally by saying Endgame's the best movie ever.
Should have got Best Picture nom. I don't know why it didn't get Best Picture nom.
Screw Shawshank, man. Screw Shawshank.
Disney, the company, not the Russo brothers, should have got Best Directing.
Should have. Definitely. So, that's going to do it for DCD 64. Yeah, 64.
Yep.
And 64.
We finally got 64 bits.
Yep, there you go. So that's going to do it for DCD 64. Hope you enjoyed the show this week. And next week, I'm sure we'll talk a lot about the Super Bowl. And we have Film Club, Lighthouse. I'm expecting a lot of discussion around that as well. It'll probably be a longer Film Club because it's such a well-reviewed... I'm sorry, I just got an email that distracted me, but it's just such a well-reviewed movie. I'm sure it's going to be a good one. But as always, I want to tell you guys about the t-shirt link in the description. You can buy a DCD t-shirt that Andy's sporting on this week's video podcast. If you buy one of those, it gets us $6, goes towards the ongoing cost to host, and all the costs that go with having a podcast.
Expensive, bro. That bet's gonna go every single time.
Yeah, dude, those McDoubles are really racking up. So, yeah, if you buy one of those, let us know. Let us know. I mean, we'll definitely give you a shout out here on the show, or we'll just DM you a thank you on Twitter, whatever you want. In addition to that, if you go to patreon.com/DCD podcast, you can support the podcast for as little as $1 a month, get early access to the show, all kinds of other perks like being able to suggest your own film for DCD Film Club every third week. Want to give a huge thank you to our current Patreon supporters. Got Dumbest Sphinx in the egg tier, Bobby in the Andy tier, Jared and Daniel in the gold tier. But like I said, head over there and check out our Patreon today. Like I said, for as little as $1 a month, you can support us. That's a quarter an episode. Anyway, also you could leave us a review on iTunes. That is absolutely free. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube. That is also absolutely free. And finally, maybe tell a friend about the podcast. Recently, somebody told me that they reached out to their friend about our podcast, and their friend apparently is listening to our podcast at work all the way from episode 1. So I want to, when you finally get to episode 64, I want to say thank you for listening to all of our episodes. We really appreciate it. But yeah, tell a friend about the podcast. It's always free. And then finally, you go to deadchannelduo.com and you can find us on every platform we're available. We're on all kinds of audio platforms as well as YouTube. So, Andy, anything else you want to talk about?
See Markelle Fultz last night?
He did, man. I think he's going to win comeback
Your boy
player
dropped
of the
a
year.
triple-double against the Lakers.
He did. He had a really good game, and he's had a very solid year. Very quiet, but very solid year, and I think he will be the NBA comeback player of the year. If the season we're ending today, he would be a runaway favorite for that award.
But I have one question for you to end the show. How does it feel to have the greatest pitcher of all time play for the Marlins? Carlos Zambrano, the GOAT.
Wait, what?
Carlos Zambrano, the greatest pitcher ever.
What about him?
He played for the Marlins.
Did he?
In 2013.
I don't believe you.
He had the stash. He played for the Marlins.
No
Stanton,
way.
Yelich, Ozuna.
That doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. He did play for the Marlins in 2012. Finished 7-10. I did not know that he played for the Marlins.
I just wanted to say Zambrano is the greatest pitcher of all time. That's all.
He had a lot of potential, and he did have some good years, but that year with the Marlins was not really his best, but he wasn't on a very good team.
But he hit
to be
dingers.
Fair. He did hit dingers. He was kind of like a more talented Bartolo Colon, who can hit dingers too, apparently. Anyway, that's going to do it for DCD 64. Thanks for listening this week. We will see you next week for DCD 65.
Das Vidania.